All right.
Here we go.
Yeah, I used to have to use Zoom a lot. I used to teach English to Chinese children.
Yeah.
So I would get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and teach to about 8:30 or 9 um, every
You get it
morning.
done. You
And
get
then I
it
was
done.
done with my day. Right. And then I was done with my work for the day. It was actually kind of ideal in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really enjoy, honestly, I enjoy kids.
I did coaching with teenagers
Hmm.
for a year.
Yeah. Hmm.
Alternative education too. So it was like, the kids that were brave enough to say that this school system isn't for me,
Yes, yes, yes.
the way that this is going is not going to work for me.
Hmm. So I
So I
had to
did
use my
that. Yeah.
axolotl to clean my screen. Okay. Yeah, my daughter uh pursued alternative track in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think? Let's do
I can
this.
go whenever you want.
Let's go. I have a list.
Okay.
I'm
Let me know if
kind of
the background
scattered at
noise is
this
too.
point,
Okay.
but
And let me know if the cars are too much. I can close one window.
I don't hear anything right now, so I'll let you know
Awesome.
if it becomes a problem.
Okay.
So my first question is, did you or do you play soccer?
No, I did not. I played volleyball. I
I
did
played
play in a
volleyball
junior.
in high school. Yeah.
Yep, I played in high school. I don't know if you remember Gabrielle Reese.
Oh yeah, Gabby Reese played at FSU. I knew her.
She spiked me right here at a professional
Oh
game
my
when I was
God.
shagging balls.
How are
Never
we in
forget
the
it.
same volleyball culture? What kind of, that's crazy.
I
Yeah,
love that sport.
yeah,
And I,
Gabby was in my circuit of in high school, we were on the same whatever Southeast regional, yeah, circuit in Florida.
yeah.
So our teams played each other.
Oh my God,
And
I would have loved to have played her. I just got to shag her balls, but that sounds horrible.
yeah,
Yeah, and I played in the Junior Olympics over in Europe.
wow, that's amazing. I was terrible at my, yeah, I was not good, but
Well,
that's,
we got our asses kicked, and we all
yeah.
came home with whooping cough, which was a great team bonding experience.
Pertussis, holy
Yeah,
moly.
but it's like the whooping one. So it's like when you cough, you go cool, cool, and then you go, "Ah,"
Yeah.
and you sound like a
Mhm.
whooping crane, and then you puke because you can't breathe.
Yeah, yeah,
It
pertussis isn't
bonded
fun.
our team together so
All right. So, why did you pick soccer and not volleyball?
because for it just made sense physiologically speaking for the shifter energy needing to get burned. I needed something that was
A
going
lot of
to
running.
a
Yeah.
lot of running, and plus I have a resource of knowledge in my husband. He played college
Hmm.
soccer, and he also coached college soccer, women's soccer. So
Yeah.
I when I was a kid, and I guess what I did was I just jumped over the midline over and over and over again and forgot about the ball. And then one time I was mixed co-ed, and a little boy actually bulldozed me with his stomach, like his head into my stomach.
Uh-huh.
Took it became tackle. I didn't even know it was supposed to be a tackle sport, but it became
Hmm.
very physical. And
Hmm.
I didn't really want to play soccer after that.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. With volleyball, we are sequestered among our team. Um,
Yeah. Yes.
someone would have to
Yes.
go over or under the net.
Yes. And then they would get flagged.
Right, exactly. But yeah, soccer is full contact. It's nasty business. I actually played it in high school as well. I went to a small school where basically they looked at me and they went, "You're big. You should be able to play stuff," and put me on every team. Because I was like 5'8", and
Oh my
yeah,
God.
and bigger than some of the other girls, and I guess we were like eighth grade when that started. Yeah, so I got to play soccer,
Just
volleyball,
what you want to hear as an
basketball.
eighth grade girl, right? Just what you want to hear as an eighth grade girl.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun because honestly, I'm not super athletic and it was nice to be involved in team stuff. I mean, I doubt I would have made any of those teams if I hadn't just been assumed to be on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially the basketball. I was real bad at that.
I didn't like basketball. I
Volleyball was my
played that.
best.
Volleyball was it's my favorite. I still play to
Yeah.
this day, even though
Mhm.
I did snap my Achilles when I turned 30, trying to relive my glory days. I
Yeah,
snapped my Achilles playing it, and I was like, I guess that means I'm old because I just snapped my volleyball.
I have a friend who still plays recreationally, and she played in high school and college too, and I'm always amazed, but her knees are destroyed. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so Billy is a soccer player, and she has a really interesting background. And
Hmm.
I was explaining to someone, trying to explain this book, because it really has your series is so unique in so many ways. But when I describe it, it doesn't sound super unique. It's like,
Yeah.
well, there's this girl and she comes from this like fucked up background. Well, okay, that's just about every single
Yeah.
Wolf Shifter book. Well, she loses her parents in a fire. Well, that's like every yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Hello, Oliver Twist. Okay, we get it. Like,
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, the thing that's hard to explain but easy to read once you get there is that it is this investigation of character and motivation and flaws and addressing those flaws and trying and miscommunication and trying to get it right that I mean, I just love. In my own book, I try to do my own series. I've been trying to do that with somebody gets jealous all the time. And, now we're in the fourth book and they're like, I'm not getting as jealous anymore. You know,
but
like,
you even
God,
address some
make
of
some
that in
growth.
you address some of the stuff in the first book because
Mhm.
Sunday's an empath, so she can feel them or their feelings, so she
Right.
can
Mhm.
understand. Like, dude, come on, and like, so
Yeah.
she doesn't seem to have the issue of bringing up, bringing up the topics. Like I
Right.
found that in the first book, and that was refreshing because I don't know about you, but there is a lot of miscommunication in this trope.
There is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, that was one of the things that I decided when I was, it was the first thing I ever tried to write. And I hit that very first scene where there was some kind of miscommunication. And there was a part of my brain that went, now it does this. And I went, "Ugh.
mm,
What would happen if we just called it out? Like, what would
yeah,
happen if you just laid it out there?"
yeah,
And that was a much more interesting thing to write. So that's where I ended up going. That
yeah,
subvert the tropes, yeah.
mm,
See, starting with the discovery of a supernatural world, the walking through the doorway and finding something unexpected on the other side of it, which I think is a really interesting moment in just about every paranormal series that doesn't include soups who already know they are.
yeah,
Yeah. And it seems like you usually have, oh my God, no, I can't believe it, or I'm cool with it. But you, Billy, I love Billy. I love how she reacted to it. I love that she was like, my favorite part was, and there were a lot of these because as a psychology major and a person who's into personal growth, like
yeah,
so many of the things I read, I was like right on. But the one with Billy where she said, like, I need it explained to me as if I'm not involved in it. So I can
yeah.
take it in like academically, philosophically, before I insert my emotions and ego into it. And I
Hmm.
was just like, yes, that kind of deep, layered understanding is just chef's kiss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and well, I mean, that's personal for me too. That's how I approach that. Because whenever it becomes me, then all
Yeah.
of a sudden your security and your livelihood, because your brain just goes, if I'm scared, I'm scared. And it could be a
Yeah.
saber-toothed tiger or it could be a dentist appointment. I don't know, but I'm freaking
Now,
scared.
right, exactly.
Right.
And yeah. And
So
our
if I can,
kids don't care. There is no understanding that that's a spider and not a serial killer.
it's one or the other. It's
Yeah,
like death or
on or
life. And
off.
so, yeah.
Mhm.
So, so that's what I like to do too when I'm like in a situation like that. Remove me from the situation,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
that's also what I do with my feelings too, is like if I'm getting stressed about something, I try to like look at myself from like the third person
right.
and be
Well, yeah,
like,
yeah, and I think that would be like narrative therapy to some degree. The
mm-hmm,
idea that we take those like traumatic moments and if we write a narrative about them, where we're writing it about them happening to someone else, somehow like it's a lot easier to then, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to actualize or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I loved so many of Billy's coping mechanisms. Um, from the cinnamon gum to the constant running to but
Dude,
not
they're
just
all
that,
me.
but
They're
yeah, but
freaking
the
all me.
right. I had a feeling they were, yeah. The
Like,
disassociation that you like, I absolutely do the like someone can be talking to me and I can be next door. Just
yeah.
nodding my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also really love how you telegraphed the movements that everybody goes through. Like really like it's not enough to sit down. It's like she throws herself back on the chair, she's looking up at the ceiling, she's you know, the
Yeah.
puff of air through her bangs, the whole thing. And I can just perfectly see it. So
Yeah.
yeah, well done.
I will say that like when I first started
Hmm.
writing this stuff, it wasn't like that. That comes like
Hmm.
as you write more,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
get better at writing.
Oh yeah, the craft is a real thing.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, when you're writing and then you're listening or reading others, then you're picking things up in a
Hmm.
different viewpoint, in a different perspective. So, Jim
Hmm.
Butcher, who I absolutely love, he does the Dresden Files. He
Hmm.
has a lot of like flomping down, clambering, shambling, like,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and so
Yeah, I
you
love
kind of
that.
pick that stuff
Hmm.
up and you go, that hits me so much different than he walked across the room, you
Right. Oh
know?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Um, I really I so let me ask you this. So was Billy Mahoney the first series you wrote?
Ever.
Was it the first time? So how long have you been writing fiction? How long have you been writing creatively?
Dude, so what happened was I got super burnt out in my business in 2021.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I had been writing a health and wellness mindset blog for 2 years, a weekly one. So every week for over 2 years, I wrote nonfiction,
Hmm.
you
Right.
know?
Hmm.
And it was like pulling teeth sometimes, just trying, because you have to get so nitty gritty because you're writing the truth. And there is no like, oh, this could be pretend. And I had just gotten really burnt out on my coaching business, doing all of the media for it and the writing for it. And I was like, I just need to take a break. So I just started reading,
Okay.
right? And I was like, I'll just read for like a month. Then I was like, I'll just read for 2 months. I'll just read till the end of the freaking year. And then all of a sudden, I have been reading and not producing. So I've been consuming and not producing for 6 months.
Okay.
Like I still had my business, I still had all my clients. I just kind of
Yeah.
stopped creating and I started because I was so burnt out from creative.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I just started eating everything. And then I couldn't find the bloody book I wanted to read.
Hmm.
And
So
that's,
you thought, let me go ahead and write that book.
I was like, why not? So the first thing I did was I did it by hand and I wrote up in a notebook
Hmm.
by hand and I filled up the notebook in like 2 nights. And I'm like, okay, well,
There's obviously something in
there's
there. Let's get it
something
out.
in there.
Yeah.
And so then I just stopped reading and started writing.
Hmm.
And that's just where it
And
went.
that's it, huh? Okay.
Yeah. And then my husband's like, what are you going to do with this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
happy doing it. And then like he read some, he's like, it's kind of good. So I was like, well, let me see. And so I just, because I had 500,000 words by that point or something.
Okay.
So I kind of was like, I broke it apart, edited up that a little bit, and then I was like, I'll send it to five of my friends, my beta readers. One of my sorority sisters, Heidi, is a published
Mhm.
author too. She writes like young adult fiction. She's published 2 books. So I
Mhm.
just asked her a little bit. She's like, get 5 beta readers, send them the manuscript,
Right.
send them
Hmm.
highlighters, a questionnaire, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And so that's what I did. So I
Hmm.
sent that to five of my sorority sisters that aren't my best friends, that aren't my family, but that
Right.
read this
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then I got it back, and then that's just kind of how it happened.
Hmm. That's a great story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So as far as how she came about or whatever, it literally was the book that I couldn't find.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is a spite writing. I got
I'm all like, no, 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 let me just this? And you're like, wow, what?
Well, I mean,
Talk to me.
I got really, really mad at Charlene Harris after finishing
Oh,
her her Southern Vampire Mysteries.
the True Blood.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean but the books are especially egregious. I mean, the series ended kind of terribly too, but the books end up with just I mean, if you could have said, like, say the worst thing that you think could happen here. Yeah, okay, well, maybe, the main character that you really like is made into basically a sex slave for 200 years. Oh, well, that would be really awful. I can't imagine anyone would do that. And yeah, so I read that, and then I started going to fan fiction, trying to find like somebody who would write like a fix it. Like I just needed to read it like with a happy ending for me.
Yeah.
And I did find a couple, but they weren't exactly what I wanted either. And then I began to realize that there was a lot about that story that I didn't like, but there was also something about it that I did, and I started having this idea for like a better FMC that also had something psychic going on and
Hmm.
but wasn't like,
Wasn't a fairy.
yeah, it wasn't a fairy, but beyond that, like also just wasn't so stubborn that she was constantly like shooting herself almost,
Oh
or
no.
just so rigid, like, which is something that I feel like you're interviewing me, but no, it's something I've been really working with, like to get to Sunday at the end here is the idea of rigidity, the idea of being so sure of your ethics and morals and not allowing other things to exist.
Right, like
Um,
what is it, Laurel K. Hamilton, Anita Blake. Like, God dang,
exactly.
how long? And I was like, I mean, and I loved that stuff when I
Yeah.
first read it. But
Yeah.
now that our society has grown,
Hmm.
my view has grown. And I can go back reading that stuff from written back then
Hmm.
and see the rigidity and be like, oh my God. Because like some of it is, I have to remember that this was written in the early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what she was writing was very like,
And it was
ooh,
really, I mean, it was I mean, it was right on the cover and bleeding edge. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And now not
But
so
I
much.
got so annoyed with Anita sometimes because I was just like, just let go, woman. Just let go.
I know, I know. I completely agree with you. And I one of the things I really love about vampires is that they can have these many, many lives. That's one of the reasons that I'm kind of into writing them.
Hmm.
I love the idea of somebody who has that kind of wisdom. I've never really enjoyed how they relate to humans. It's never felt right to me because, like,
Mm.
the last thing I would want if I were 2000 years old is to deal with like an 18-year-old woman or man. Yeah, like I just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So there was
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's like this point here where in Meet Your Maker, which I'm working on right now, where Sunday is considering maybe I'll become a vampire eventually. And and she's being sort of counseled on it and being told like, a good maker will help you to grow. A good maker will not indulge your brattiness. A good maker will. And it's all kind of like what I've been thinking all along about like what that relationship would look like. It's like somebody who's picking you for eternity, you know, they're not going to treat you like a princess.
No, but
Because
at
who
the
would want to
same
have that
time,
for eternity?
right. But at the same time, they may find pleasure in
Yeah.
the stuff that they don't experience anymore to be like, oh my God, to be that worked up over something so small, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And they
Yeah.
also they must have patience because like, they're
Hmm.
like, in 100 years, this is totally not going to be like whatever. It's not going to be a big deal.
Right, right. I have a Rurik in Dreaming Death. He plays the long game. And I think Thomas mentions it. He goes, he's just waiting for all of us to die, then he can have her. Like he will absolutely play the long game of,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm cool, but in 200 years he'll be back. And I kind of, I mean, that's how you live, right? That's what eternity would be about. Like, oh, well, this isn't working. I'll be back in a decade and we'll see how it's going,
Yeah. It's not going to be that long.
Yeah, and yeah, I've always been really interested in like the way that time can kind of compresses things and makes things feel a lot more like I've got to do it right now than maybe it really it is.
Well, time is relative.
Certainly.
It really is. And like one of the biggest things I like to do sometimes is when I get messed up with time is that I go outside at night and I look up at the stars
Hmm.
and I go, I'm seeing the past
It's
because it
wild.
is
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
light years for that
Years
light
for
to
it.
reach me. So whatever
It's
I'm
wild.
seeing is like way in the past. And so I
Mhm.
go, none of this shit fucking matters, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like
true.
not much. And if I'm having a hard time where I feel like not much matters, then I'll go outside and look at like little bugs. And I'll be like, dude, I'm bigger than you and you're still going about your day. So I guess there's got to be a point for me to be here if you're
Yeah.
still here,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree.
Mm.
Um, so have you always been drawn to paranormal romance, or is this something that you found lately? When
Well, I
did
mean,
you?
I did read Twilight on my honeymoon and stuff. And I do like paranormal. I
Mhm.
do like paranormal in general, and I like wizards and stuff. You know, I like Terry Goodkind's The Sword of
Mhm.
Truth.
Yeah. Mhm.
Obviously, George R. R. Martin, which I read way before the series
Me too.
came out.
Mhm.
And you know, I like the Fourth Wing series was good and paranormal. I picked the shifters A because they're fun. Like it's just fun. And
Mhm.
then B, you have the fated mates trope, which I felt would allow for me to move the relationship faster
Yeah, yeah, it
along.
does. I mean, it's definitely a convenient thing to put in there. I love the mating venom. I don't think I've read that in another one, another
Mm. I
paranormal.
don't know.
I can't remember reading that. I've read a couple of ones where there's been some other like physiological things that go on with the bite, but the venom thing is really, really interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just like made well, because like they bite. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, well, there's got to be a fucking point to biting.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mhm.
then let's exchange our essence with each other and put a little bit of each other inside.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's something that you do in a couple of different ways. The
Hmm.
piercing of this, when the two shifter animals meet and they, can
Oh
pierce.
yeah, and they like hang
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Um, okay, so Billy was the book that you wanted to write.
Read.
The book you
The book
wanted
I
to
wanted to
read,
read.
and
Really
then
important. Yeah.
yeah, right, right. So, I mean, I'm just curious, like, what would you say was missing from what you were reading? What was it that you were hoping to discover
Okay.
behind? Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I got really sick of the miscommunication. I wanted to have communication. And I
Right.
know that sometimes conversations in books can be boring, but I think if they're done the right way, they can be entertaining. Like you can read an entertaining dialogue.
Sure.
The other thing is that when I was writing this, I was thinking about my husband and I when we got together when I was Billy's age. You know, I was like 20,
Hmm.
21 when I met my husband in college. And I just thought about how much we had sex, just the two of us. And
Hmm.
then all of these other meeting ones had like five or six guys and I was just like, there's just no freaking way I could ever. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I would have to train my vagina. Like, it would have to work out in order to move
Yeah,
up to
yeah.
that level of sex, you
That's
know?
that's why I write MM, really. I
Well,
mean,
that's why I have some going into it too, because I
yeah.
feel like if you're in a relationship like that, everybody's bonded, everybody's feeling everybody. Like there's stuff that's going to happen. So I didn't really want to go above three mates, you
Hmm.
know,
Okay, yeah.
for them. Like
Hmm.
that's where I was at that because like and then I was starting. There was ones that had seven, and I was like, I can't even keep track of who is
I'm
who.
I'm really impressed by people who can do that. Who is it? It's Jane Washington.
Jane
She
Washington.
writes these very, very, very big harems. She has that Ironside School out right now, which is like an Omega Verse Academy sort of thing. And it's like an Omega Verse that has a lot of magic in it. Like, how
Yeah,
Omega Verses are like, oh, just almost contemporary. No, this has got
yeah.
like people like teleport around and stuff. It's really wild. But there
So
are
sci-fi
10.
Omega.
There are 10 mates in this one. And shockingly, I somehow the way she writes it, the way the callback ways that she like indicates who she's talking to and stuff, you really don't lose track of them, which is wild because I lose track of my own and somehow I'm remembering all 10 of hers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like that was one of the things. The other thing is that I wanted to write about judgment of love. Like there's three main themes that I really
Mhm.
wanted to talk about was judgment of love.
Mhm.
You know, like we don't need to judge how anybody else loves, and we should never hate on love. Hating on love is probably the worst thing we could do as an organism that is a living, breathing,
Right.
spiritual thing,
Mhm.
right? The one of the other ones is, you know, standing in your truth, standing in your story, owning your story, and the power that you can find in that. And that's why I wanted Billy to have Mickey and have him be a recovering alcoholic and not a parent, because it's easier for a kid or a teenager to learn from somebody that A has gone through stuff, B
Yeah.
that is not their mom or dad, because though we love them, we're still rebel. And you know, and Mickey is one of those people that are like,
Mhm.
ah, yeah, kid, I had my hard times too, you know, like let's just
Yeah.
talk about it. It's gonna
Mhm.
be fine. And so, you know, to
Mhm.
have her be able to say like, yes, I was a, you know, I was an orphan and just own it. I really want people to know that it's so much more important for us to own what's happened to us and to own our decisions, because that's where you grow. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
grow from a lie. You can only grow from a truth.
Mhm.
Um,
I really like how she handles bullying. That's what it was reminding me of.
mm,
Every time that one of the nasty wolves like calls her out, does something, the way she manages to like turn it is really kind of beautiful. Where
yeah.
she's like shames them for their, their behavior, like makes everyone look at it critically and then goes, so that's really how you want to be without being like mean or
No, it's
or
nourished.
cruel,
Is that really what
just
you want to do?
reflecting it back and going, really?
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, that
Yeah,
one with Colette in the Dev Psych class in particular, right? Yeah.
that was one of the
Where,
ones. Yeah.
yeah. And
That
then the
was
other
beautiful.
important theme was the power of levity.
Hmm.
I just, people are so serious these days, and it's really not helpful,
Hmm.
you know? And when we're working from a mindset of play and fun, we're working in different areas of our brain that allow us to actually use innovation and empathy and creativity.
Hmm.
And it lightens the mood and it provides space,
Right. Hmm.
you know. So I have gotten, you know, comments on the book that she's juvenile or childlike, and I'm like, A, she's 20, and then I'm like, B, I'm 44 and I legit do the same freaking shit. So what are you
Yeah.
trying to say? Like,
Right. Oh yeah,
I
I know.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's where when I wanted to have her be a funny character, you
Hmm.
know, and be flawed still. Like she runs away from shit, she's not perfect,
Right.
you know.
I was actually, that was on my list. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
know, but she owns it. She's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
ran away,
I'm
you know, like
trying. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying, dude. I'm a work in progress.
The fact that they stopped letting her go take showers at one point because she has been like
Yeah,
every time.
yeah, when she creates a good escape route, she uses it, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, really, really. Yeah, I was just thinking that I really love how her fox shows up in different ways in her human form and like those little sort of I really, really enjoy those. I think those are brilliant and they do a nice job of keeping us aware that this is not just a contemporary that happens to have shifters, like this is, always working, always there. It's not just when she's shifted, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and in the third
Yeah.
book, like you kind of see like little fox starts to get like a little like tetchy, like, okay, I'm done like just taking a back seat. Like
Well, yeah,
I'm just gonna
I think in the
start to
beginning,
come
right?
out.
Like you can almost feel like little Fox would be excited just to be out, right? Just excited to be aware of, yeah, people have to have her aware and to be able to run and find mates and all of that. But yeah, like by the end, yeah, by third book, little Fox is like, well, ready to rip someone's ears off, right?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in the fourth book too, she really like there's a lot in the fourth book that is
Mhm.
the animals for some
Yeah.
of it, just because of how battles have to happen in shifters and stuff. But
Hmm.
then you see, because Little Fox acts like she knows everything, and then like in the fourth book, Little
Hmm.
Fox is trying to do shit, thinking that she's all the shit. Like she's like,
Yeah.
I got this, and then she like totally is like, maybe I don't have this.
Maybe I
Like,
don't know, but yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, I do. I love the internal. I mean, I do that same stuff in my series with the everybody's, internal animals are connecting and talking
mm,
together. Yeah, that's been a big thing for me too. I really love that. Um, and I think that's probably what I like best about shifter stories is the that extra sort of internal communication that people get. The idea that you're never alone because you have this animal spirit in your head that, has your best, it has your best interest at heart and, will always be your best friend. I think it's
Yeah,
just,
like you're never alone.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
like one thing that
exactly.
like Billy kind of realized in the first book. I think she goes like, I'll never
Mhm.
be alone, you know?
Right.
And she
Hmm.
never
Hmm.
was.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Billy is just, I mean, she's us in a lot of ways. I don't know. I felt for her and the miscommunications that she had with the boys, especially in the first book, in terms of like the van ride back from with Enzo and everything, the van ride back, well, that was like the van, what was it called?
Van Nato.
Apocalypse? Van
Van Nato.
Apocalypse. Right. But oh my God, it was hard to read. It was like, like, oh my God, I could feel the tension. Um, and then, I mean, of course, I would want to run away from that. That was a lot to go through, sitting there in silence. I would want to turn tail and say, like, let's talk about this tomorrow. But
Yeah.
man, she just stands there and she cries and she yells and she, does what she has to do to get through it. And I am myself such an avoidant person that I think she's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, she does still avoid some stuff, but like other stuff she's comfortable with like dealing with. And it's also because
Hmm.
because of Mickey, and what
Yeah.
she's gone through. And he's just like, listen, it's better for you to know the truth now
Hmm. Yeah.
than not.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just own it.
Own it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. My mom used to say that you can't fix something that you can't see. So, the idea of pretending like something's not wrong is not going to make it any better,
Mm-mm.
you know,
Nope,
and
because it
you,
is what it is.
yeah, it is what it is. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to actually look at these questions for a second.
Okay.
Um, because some of these are more like less Billy centric, which is what I seem to be a little fixated on right now. Okay. How about do you have, well, I mean, I think the big question here is after book five, do you have thoughts about what you want to write next?
Oh,
Have
I
you,
already have stuff written.
okay. Can
Yeah,
you
so
tell
I
me
have
anything about it?
yep, I have a reverse age gap that's 80% done.
Okay. Hmm.
And that's just standard, whatever. But that happened was a year and a half ago. My mom lost her partner of 16 years, Patrick. And
Aw.
at that time, I was reading reverse age gaps.
Hmm.
And I sat there at the funeral home seeing my mom have to sit in this stupid freaking receiving line
Uh-huh.
after seeing her partner of 16 years. Because, like, that's what we're supposed to do. And I'm
Hmm.
sitting there next to my husband, and morbid as it is, I look at him and I'm like, if that was him up there, like dead, and I had to like deal with, I'm like, I'm not sitting in no freaking receiving line trying to put on a plastic smile. Like, and so it
Hmm.
kind of got me into the societal pressures of grieving and how we should all just be able to grieve on our own. And then I kind of thought about the reverse age gaps that I was reading and the things that I didn't enjoy and those that I wanted to
Hmm.
write. So I'm kind of putting those two together where Ember loses the love of her life, you know,
Right. Hmm.
at 35, copes whatever, comes up with a plan that she's just gonna have sex like every 3 months, like an oil change, just to try to like,
5,000 miles, whether she needs
yeah,
it.
just to try to like fill up what she calls like her flesh tank, so that she's like, okay. But then she ends up like having a connection with like a younger man, like he's
Mhm.
25 and she's 37.
Mhm.
And but she didn't have a bad marriage. She had a like a mythical amazing marriage, and all the ones that I've read before, the marriage has always been
Wasn't,
bad,
yeah, right, right, right.
you know
I think
and
it's because then we can give her permission to love again because she didn't get it the first time.
right.
Right.
But the biggest concept I think about all the time is love finite or is love infinite?
It's definitely
Love
infinite.
is
Yeah.
infinite.
Yeah.
So then why do we put conditions on it? It
I
is
don't know.
okay for some, if some, yeah, exactly. And so I think that if people are
Don't
open,
ask me.
right, I think that if people are open to love,
Hmm.
then they will experience more love. It's the people that put boundaries on it that say, "Oh no, you've already had that love. You can't
Mhm.
have it again."
Mhm.
And plus, I thought about if you ever lost like that person, like if I ever lost Justin, my husband,
Mhm.
there is no way 2 years later that I would have been the same person I was with him. It
Yeah.
is too much of a catastrophic
Mhm.
freaking, event
Yeah.
in my life that I would have to change. Now, do I get to control that change in who I become? Do I use his death as a way to become a better person? Or do I let his death consume me? One or the other, it doesn't matter. Um, but I wouldn't be the same person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I got it. No,
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I can't wait to read that. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
yeah. And then I've got another one that's an MFM high school, well, like high school, college,
Hmm.
gang, mafia.
Ooh, oh,
One
that
that's
sounds
about, I've
good.
got about
Mhm.
220,000 words on that so far.
Wow, you are
That's,
quite the prolific writer.
I
Um,
really write, like when I get an idea, it just spews out of me.
mhm.
Um, and so that one is Raise Mad Hell.
Okay,
That one's going
that
to
sounds
be like,
great.
yeah. And then because I've read the Dresden series and I've been rereading Anita Blank, uh,
Hmm.
I am now coming up with another one that could be like a 20 book series that is like crimes,
Hmm.
but like
A
she's a
crime of the book.
wizard, and then
Yeah.
there's it's going to be
Hmm.
different though because they disappear in 1986. They have to go to ferry, they come back and it's like 2024, right? And they think they've only been gone for like 3 years, but they've been gone for all this time. So like she still drives like an IROC Z 1986 freaking IROC Z. She's still listening to freaking tapes and like GNR. And so like her and her two best friends that were stuck in ferry together want to like experience all the stuff that they've gone through. So like they're like, okay, so now we're gonna listen to like MC Hammer because apparently that's on like the This Is Now CD and
They've
stuff
got
like that.
they've got them for each year so that they can
Yeah,
catch
they're
back up.
like, and then like they change up their clothes so that now they're in like the windbreakers and stuff like that. They're in the hyper color like
Okay,
sweats.
so you wrote this for Gen X people for sure. They will very much
Yes,
enjoy
but
that.
that one's gonna
Yeah.
be kind of like a little bit like that, kind of like Kim Harrison's The Hollow series. I don't know if you've read
No, I
those.
haven't read that one actually. That's one I
Oh
have.
my God, that is good
Let me write
freaking
it
shit.
down.
Kim Harrison, The Hollow series.
All
Rachel
right.
something is the main character. It is so good though. If you like the crime stuff, like the
I do like
paranormal
the crime
crime.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do. I really like it. And I have a pen too. Jesus Christ, where are the pens in my desk? I don't even have children. This is ridiculous. All right, I'm just gonna have to make a note of that somewhere else.
I can message you. It's Kim Harrison. Kim
Kim
Harrison.
Harrison.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really do enjoy stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah.
um, Here we are. Okay. So let me ask you, are there any tropes that you are not interested in writing? Is there anything that you're just like that? Yeah, not doing that.
I don't know. Like, I don't think I would do historical fiction.
It's a lot of research.
Dude, it's a lot of research. And if say bustier instead of boosty whatever, like people will be on you.
Yeah.
Like, and
Mhm.
I would definitely be the one that would make that mistake because I would probably be cross-eyed
Mhm.
with the research by the time that happened.
Yeah, yeah. I've only done a little bit of ancient Greece stuff for the last book where she kept traveling to ancient Greece with Grace
Yeah.
and Alexander. But I already have heard from one history buff about that.
Yeah.
Apparently, I there was a special cup for wine that isn't the thing that I called it. Yeah.
You're like, I didn't get the memo, dude.
It's
The
okay.
good thing though about being a creative writer, especially in this series, is that you can always make that be like a specialty thing that only the vampires and shifters knew about,
Why not? Right? Right?
right? Yeah, you write yourself into a corner, you write yourself a ladder,
Oh,
you
I like
know?
that. That's a good thing. It's tough because when you do I guess I would call it urban fiction I mean urban fantasy, I guess. But when you lay a magical world over the one that exists, there's something inside my brain that wants to make it as close to reality as possible. So just as an example, like I needed them to have a place in Mississippi where they live. So I invented a town, but I also got out the geological survey maps for the upper western corner of Mississippi and found exactly where I wanted it to be between these two different rivers. And I looked at, you know, I looked at overhead views of it. I know exactly where the farm is. And I also, because there was going to be a flood, I had to make sure that it made sense, you know.
Hmm.
So it does make even writing that kind of thing, I have a lot of trouble being creative with that part of it.
Well, I mean, like I put
Yeah.
wolves in New Hampshire, and I definitely put in the book like wolves don't normally, occur in New Hampshire. Like, so,
Yes, I remember
I
that.
get that too, because I think that
Mhm.
if you go too far out,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you're
I
not all
know.
the way
It's
out
very
there, then
limited.
you've got to still keep it somewhat here.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's somewhat limiting. I'm completely aware of it.
Mm.
Um, but I can't seem to really stop myself, and I get some sort of little dopamine hit when I can make things match up. Like I really want to put them in, someplace in the Mediterranean, maybe part of Italy. I need an old castle. Oh, well, what about Elba? Oh, Elba's got that Napoleon thing. I really like that. And then from there,
Yeah.
it was, now I've got an entire half a book set in this other place. And I want it to match in case someone from Elba ever reads it, I want it to make sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. I 100%
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do wish I could like let go of the reins a little bit on that kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't know
And
if it's really worth the energy. Like if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. If you're getting dopamine from it, that's really
yeah,
hard
I
because
know,
you
I know.
literally have a habit loop. Like you're getting a drug off of it.
Uh, yeah, yeah. It is a little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like it when I find like the perfect thing that matches what I want it to match. It already exists and I can now add that to my story.
Mm.
All right. So no tropes. So genre wise, you wouldn't write historical. Would you write, and I'm just gonna like say, like, would you write Amnesia? Would you write Secret
Um,
Baby? Would you write
no
Perfect
babies.
Mate? No
No
babies.
babies.
No babies, no pregnancies.
Maybe if it's a male pregnancy, because that'd be kind of fun.
An MPreg, my goodness. Okay, we just actually were discussing this in Discord like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Somebody asking, how does that work? And what are butt babies?
But maybe, like maybe those males
Mhm.
actually have like another hole that who knows. But like I don't, yeah, I wouldn't do the secret baby thing. I don't have kids, so I don't know if I could, because they say write what you know. So I always say write what you know when you can. Oh God, the
Right.
bear is back.
The bear? Oh,
My
good.
chickens.
Oh, is the bear harassing your chickens? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We
All
have a
right. If he goes for him, I'm gonna have to get the pots and pans.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in a bear problem city myself, so totally understand.
Oh, okay. He went away. So like, yeah,
He didn't have the eggs.
yeah, so I wouldn't do that. I don't know if I would do the amnesia thing,
hmm
you know,
My favorite amnesia
and I
is
wouldn't do the super age gap with an older guy unless he's a vampire. Like that's different.
yeah,
And
and why
I
is it
don't do the
different?
daddy thing. I
Yeah, why
don't.
is it different? That's what I want to know. Like, why do we all excuse that? Because the vampire looks young. It's totally cool for them to be with a 25-year-old.
But it's also going to be like his choices out there are very limited otherwise.
Right. Otherwise, right, dating people his own age would be really
And
difficult.
what's he going to do? Date an 80-year-old that can't go hiking with him or can't
Yeah.
do anything? Like that's not going to work.
It's just it's definitely funny. I'm doing a reverse age gap actually with a spin-off of House of Marches, Sunday's father Wade, who I adore.
He's so
He's the one
chill.
that has the synesthesia that is somehow tied to fate. So thoughts have textures to them. So him and Arcadia, who is the sort of nymph that they found on the back 40 there. Now she's very old, but looks really young, like way too young for Wade. And so he
Like,
is
wait,
super
like
resistant because he
14?
doesn't want people to think that he's with a 16-year-old. the fact that she's 4,000 years old, he's really struggling with it. Like he's attracted to her, and at the same time, he's kind of disgusted with himself because of her appearance. And she doesn't get it at all. And I'm looking forward to sort of figuring that out, like how they work it out.
Yeah, I mean, if she looks like 16, that's okay. But like if she looked 12, we might have like issues,
Right,
man,
exactly. I'm
you
not
know?
willing to push it that because
Yeah.
because I would like to have readers when that's actually done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Already in a lot of trouble for Javier, so I'm not going to play with that again. I've already had I've had more people contact me about that one line throwaway line that I wrote where I said something like that Javier's age was stuck at when their abuse had started, which is a common sort of psychological,
It is.
trope that may not be true, but it's something that people say. Um, so emotionally, they end up kind of stuck. So I think I said emotionally, Javier has the emotional age of a 15-year-old or 14-year-old or something. And so many people have been like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. How could you have anyone, how could you do anything sexual with somebody whose emotional age is that? And I'm like, well, I mean, they are 20. I mean, it's not old, but it's not really gross to me. I think maybe you're taking it more seriously than I meant it.
I know. But it's just how you word it sometimes, you know?
Yeah, if I ever get a chance to re-edit that, I probably will remove that one single line because I don't think another one has been called out so often.
Right. I mean, like, or
Mhm.
you could say stunted, but still growing.
Stunted but still growing, right? Obviously, they are. If you read through even the first book, you would start to see some growth from Javier. But and they're really probably also my most popular character, I would say. So it's an odd thing to have the problem character from the book that people get real upset about, or is also the one that everyone's like, I love them so much. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. I've learned
No.
that. I learned that in the first book, you know, you're just not going to please everybody. And
Mm-mm. No, no.
so
So what kind of complaints do you get? Because I'm having a lot of trouble thinking of anything from from
I got
Lola.
DNFs at like 39%.
Hmm.
I got the juvenile that she's too juvenile. I've gotten a couple of things about my writing, which is fine. Like it was my first book. I didn't even know it was going to happen, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I
and
really,
I wasn't
really
ever
think.
expecting to be a Maya Angelou
Mhm.
or Dostoevsky or even like a Bret Easton Ellis, you know? Like I
Yeah.
don't have high hopes to be whatever. I just wanted to write characters that were relatable.
Yeah.
Um, I got comments on Ethan in the first book, about how he reacted to Billy's trauma.
I know exactly what they were because it's something that I liked. And of course, I'm fucked up. So well, the part that I really liked about Ethan is probably what they didn't like about him. It
Yeah.
was that he liked to push things.
Like the
And
pushing, but he was like
yeah,
upset that he didn't get to be there for her through the trauma, and she's like, "What? I'm not fucked up enough for you,"
that
and
was
like,
yeah, that was a very good scene. Yeah.
yeah, and he like jerked his head, and I was like, someone was like, "I don't even know if I can read this anymore," and then I was like, "But you guys, like, he's not perfect." I'm like, if you just read book two, like he will literally go back to that and be like, "I was such a fucking asshole. I can't believe I said
Yeah,
that,"
that you got to
But
show them. Nobody, I mean, not nobody, but a lot of people don't understand that unless they fuck up, you can't show growth unless they have something happen that's going to make you kind of maybe mad at them.
yeah. And
That's okay.
just as
Yeah.
long as my character, like that was the thing, is like I don't like reading books where I don't see any growth from the characters. They just keep
Hmm.
making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
um and
Yeah.
even in this third book I got comments about Billy, about some of the decisions that she made,
Hmm.
and I'm like, yeah, because she's not perfect, dude. Like
She's 20.
she's 20,
Please.
she's gone through a
Yeah.
lot of trauma, she's much more emotionally mature than a lot of people her age,
Mhm.
emotionally, like as far as she's playful, but the way she
Yeah.
looks at the world and perceives the world, it's a much more mature point of view, which I did research that kids that came from hard backgrounds and stuff tend to mature much faster because they have to,
Yeah, for sure.
and then she also had Mickey as a mentor.
Yeah, she definitely comes off to me as as someone who has done the work, even though she's
Yeah.
young. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it has that feeling of over and over again where she identifies a behavior or attitude or thought and kind of stops it.
Hmm.
And that usually shows people that have had some therapy, have had some have had to do some work. Yeah.
Had to do the work, or
Yeah.
got to do the work,
Yeah.
because like, hey, at least they got to grow. Some people go through life and they don't have those challenges or not
Hmm.
willing to be self-aware enough to do the work to grow.
Yeah.
So then they'll probably be
Mhm.
back here in another, well, however many years, repeating the same stuff. Or the
They're not
universe
getting
is going to
off the
keep
wheel
throwing you
anytime
the,
soon.
yeah, and like the universe will just keep throwing you the same obstacles until you bloody go, all right, I guess I need to learn this now.
Yeah.
What was another one that I got recently? Oh yeah, about the plot. There was like not much plot in the first one. Um, which
There was, I think it was an exploration of the characters more than throwing a whole lot of stuff at them.
it
But
was Stranger in a Strange Land. That
really?
that that's the theme, right? Like the
Yeah,
first theme was
okay.
Stranger in a Strange
Hmm.
Land. Billy is literally
Hmm.
learning about a whole new world,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So that was kind of the plot and stuff. And
Hmm.
I do admit that I'm more of a character writer,
Yeah.
probably,
I think you
than
are. Yeah.
yeah, and I am building plots and stuff like that. And listening to Jim
Hmm.
Butcher and stuff like that definitely helps with building a plot. But yeah, that was a comment that I've gotten that I've taken to heart and been like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, but again, I wrote this.
Yeah, I think you said it though. Like everybody, we're not going to be able to please everybody. Yeah.
We're not, and I'm going to get better. And it
Mhm.
is good to get some of those comments.
I remember seeing two on top of each other for cheating death, and one said like, I wish there had been more detail, or the world feels flat, and I wish there had been more detail. And then the next person said, this book has too much detail. It's like reading Tolkien. And I was like,
Reading Tolkien, okay, no way, do like yes,
I'm like,
when
oh yeah,
you
it's the Silmarillion. Yeah, get on it, right?
Tolkien is like, we're in a cave and I'm going to describe the cave for 3 pages.
For 3 pages, right?
And you're
No,
like,
no, you also read you read Song of Ice and Fire, which is there's
yes.
an item of food. Let me describe it for 3 pages. Yeah. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
so tired of reading about what kind of eel pies. That was it. There were so many eel pies and
Yeah. Well, like, I don't know if you've ever read Bret Easton Ellis, but like American Psycho,
hmm
he makes you work for the brutality in that. I had the first 100 pages of that book is about what people are wearing,
hmm
their daily routines for workouts, and their business cards
Yeah.
for 100 pages. And then all of a sudden he's like, and then her blood splatters my face. And you're like,
You're like,
wait, what?
whoa.
Like, what just happened?
Lulled into a false sense of security by a
Yeah.
hundred pages. Yeah.
I'm like falling
So,
asleep thinking about bone white versus egg shade white versus like off white. Like, and then all of a
yeah.
sudden, yeah.
Yeah. As a writer, it's funny, as a reader, I love like deep character study. I really do. I'm
Mm,
totally like that. The pace of that first book was perfect for me. There's tons of sex, there's tons of character growth, there's all those little moments. I love those moments.
mm.
But as a writer, I write a lot more action than
Yeah. You have a
yes.
lot of,
I
yeah.
have a lot going on, yeah. And even with that, I have people saying nothing happened in this book. Just, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, they went to 3 different countries, Jesus Christ, like in one book. But yeah, nothing happened. Okay.
But I
Um,
think that people have to understand that, like, when it's a series,
mhm.
we can have, like, in book 3, there's a lot that happens. And I even
Yeah.
got a comment, a lot
But
happened, but nothing happened.
you're working up to it in a way.
But
Yeah.
we're working up to that one thread,
Mhm.
that one pull that will
Mhm.
get us there. But there's all these other little threads that are weaving together
Yes.
first, that
Yeah.
have to happen.
Yeah, I appreciate how you sort of I mean, I was just thinking about like how you drop things 6 chapters before they're going to come back up just to sort of anchor them in the world. And I was actually saying to one of my friends, Chloe, that we were laughing about it in my Discord. I said, when you read that there is another kind of shifter or another kind of bond Like if you like, oh, well, there's this pack bonds and then there's this very super special bond. It's like Chekhov's bond. It's gonna pop back up somewhere in the book.
Yeah.
And if you ever read that an alpha wolf is stronger than his father who's in charge of the pack, there will be some sort of battle. There's no reason to tell you that otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's see. I know we probably should not go a whole lot longer. Let me make sure I've got. So we've talked about what you're going to do next. Can you tell me what is your go-to writing, drink, and snack?
Okay, so I take my medication. I take
Okay.
my Ritalin. All right, because otherwise it's not going to work out. I need to have gum with me.
Hmm.
I have a mixture of iced tea, Monster energy drink, and then seltzer water all together, mixed into
That's a
one thing.
cocktail. Yeah.
That is a cocktail, yes.
Hmm.
I have water and then grapes or like broken up a protein bar,
Uh-huh.
blueberries, anything that I can like.
Eat little pieces of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's going to be M&Ms and I'm going to eat like 3,000 calories. But
Yeah.
I need like things that I can play with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
pistachios I eat every day just because I like cracking them.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
like a ritual.
And I think I read somewhere, saw somewhere that you do a standing desk? Does that tend to be how you write, or do you sit?
So it it differs. I because I came from the health and fitness field, right? And I was
Right.
doing a lot of training and
Mhm.
yoga teaching and coaching. So when I started writing, I was sitting down. I was like, oh my body was like, why are we sitting for so long? This is
Yeah.
agonizing.
Okay.
So I force myself to write standing, especially if I'm going through edits. I can
Mhm.
do it on standing. But if I'm in like a big scene, I have to sit my ass down,
Right.
especially like the sex scenes with multiple partners,
Yeah.
because there's so
Blocking.
many freaking limbs
Yeah, I
to
know.
keep
I know.
track of. And then I have to think about like, can this only happen in anti-gravity? Am I writing this so that somebody is hovering and I don't even know it? They're like
I
hanging out
think
in space.
I think your sex scene blocking is really good. I did not
Yeah.
I did not pick up on any sort of that how does that even that's not possible, you know?
Yeah. But like I've read books where I'm like, that is legit not possible. Like there's just no way.
Yeah, I know.
Unless his penis is like 20 inches long and she's got about 2 inches in there, because that's the only way that's going to work in that position. But
Hmm.
so for those scenes I have to sit down because it takes
It takes too much, yeah, too much of your
yeah,
brain, yeah, on
yeah,
one thing. Okay, so usually you try to stand and move around a lot. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Editing in particular, writing is probably sitting, editing is standing.
got it. Okay. And do you edit? So are you a plotter or like a
I'm a
planner or a
pantser, dude, and I
dancer?
wish I wasn't, but I am.
Yeah. Okay.
And like half the shit I write, sometimes
Hmm.
I don't even know where it's coming from.
So I was actually gonna ask you that too. Do the voices in your head, are they loud?
Like I'll just get to a point where it's like a humming
Hmm.
and it just pours out.
Hmm.
And then sometimes late at night, I think I'm like falling asleep and I'm writing. And I wake up the next day and I'm like, that must have been shit. And then, except for like, obviously the falling asleep, there's a few words missing, but the concepts, I'm like, where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah, it's like your automatic writing at that point. You're like in a
Yeah.
tapping
Yeah.
straight into the subconscious.
Yeah. Like the whole judgmental side of my brain has gone to sleep and I can
Mhm.
now just spew.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I've talked about in my Discord and group, I've talked about how like some of the characters are really loud and extremely easy to write because of that. And then some of them take like more coaxing to kind of get them to come forward, you
Well,
know?
and it's also the ones that are more relatable to you. Like
Oh, for
Jackson is
sure. Yeah.
easy for me to write because I get him. Like his
Yeah.
humor is just right there. Billy, obviously, very easy for me to write because I get her 100%.
Mhm.
And for, Alessandro was not supposed to be what he ended up being.
Oh, tell me about that.
He was just supposed to be like a blip. Like I just
Yeah.
needed him to activate her royal powers. That was
Yeah.
it.
That was
But
it.
then I got like just so taken in by him
Hmm.
And like I was like, I love reading him. I love writing him. I mean, he's like, oh,
Yeah.
and I had some chamomile tea because the coffee was not drinkable. Like, you know, like
He is
falling
awesome.
in love.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, I just go into it not expecting too much and letting it just go where it's gonna go.
Yeah, that's great. So you
Yeah.
don't make a list. I'm just talking process here. Do you have like a scene list? Do you plan the chapter you're going to write before you sit down?
Mm-mm.
Do you reread to that point and then get
I
started?
reread.
Reread.
I
Okay.
reread probably about 6 to 10 pages before I write because I have to get my mind into it again.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
I do the thing where I only really plan like one chapter at a time.
I don't plan
And then
shit.
usually go way off. So yeah, I don't know. I'd call it planster. Like I have a plan. I know how it's going to end. I might know two or three big events, but
Yep.
the getting between all those things, that's all happening as I write. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've learned I can't get attached to ideas
Yeah, that's
because
hard.
I might start writing and the writing will be like, no, we have to go this way because this
Yeah.
is where we're
Mhm.
getting pulled.
Yeah.
And yes, that scene in your head from the other day will be hysterical. And we will save that for some other story, some other whatever, but
Mhm.
it's not going to work here, you
No.
know?
Yeah, no, I absolutely can relate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get attached, but yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah, but
Wow.
it's still there. The thought is still there. It's just not going to be in
Mhm.
this one. You
Yeah,
know, it doesn't mean that
for
it's not going to be in another.
book two, I wrote about I think I wrote about 70,000 words and then went through it and realized that I needed to make a really big change and I had to remove like 25,000 words to kind of get back to where I was. And they weren't really usable because unless I start doing alternative universes where everyone did something different, that kind of, it's just kind of gone.
Yeah. Listen, I have 130,000 words
Hmm.
from still left over from the original stuff.
Yeah,
And I'm in book four and I still haven't touched those 130,000 because I made changes in book three that now have negated a
negated. Yeah.
lot of what I wrote.
Mhm.
And I can use bits and pieces, but I'm just
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
oh, like, oh, that this is the process I had to do in order to
Mhm.
get to where I am. Those words weren't wasted because they got me somewhere. Maybe they had to come out in order for me to free these other words.
Yeah, that's an excellent approach to it.
Yeah.
I yeah, it was hard for me to cut that much out, but it had to happen. And I think it also, I mean, it was only the second thing I'd ever written, and it kind of showed me that even though I'd gotten kind of lucky with the pantsing, I couldn't just like turn off my brain and write whatever the hell I wanted because I ended up writing these sort of short-term goal payoffs instead of paying attention to the whole arc. And there, so on some level, like the logical part of my brain, I needed to be planning ahead a little bit. And that's kind of how I
Yeah.
learned that. Is I guess I
Yeah.
wrote myself into a corner in a way.
But you can write yourself
Yeah.
out. You can write in that ladder, you can write an escape hatch. You can write a freaking explosion that takes off one side of the building and now you
Yeah.
can jump out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's, just
absolutely.
kind of like how I saw it. And like I write all that stuff too. And then sometimes I go back and I can see the thread of the plot. And that's what I
Right.
write in then.
Okay, let me see here. We've got how do you feel? Oh, okay. Did you make a specific decision not to have wolves with knotting?
I didn't really, so
Yeah,
I
I
hadn't
don't have
read a
it
lot of the
either. Yeah,
Megaverse.
yeah.
I hadn't read a lot of the Megaverse. I do know
Mhm.
that dogs have knots.
Yeah, right.
um I would think that if I, and it's not like it might not be there, a knot could happen, but maybe that's only a pregnancy knot.
Oh, yeah, that's possible. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways you can write it. I just
There's all kind of
decided,
knots that you can
yeah,
put in,
you can put all kinds of knots.
but
I
it was not intentional. I did not intentionally say this is a no knotter.
right. No, knotter. Okay. A lot of these questions are just people like trying to find out your limits, I think. Would you ever write FF into your stories?
No, probably not.
Is it again a thing of like you're not going to write something that you're not? that you don't feel like
Like
you.
I could have like women like,
Mhm,
you know, sucking each other's tits and like kissing and stuff like that.
mhm.
Um, but I don't really enjoy reading FF.
It's a good reason not to write it. Hmm.
And I'm not gonna, and again, and I write to read.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay. And how did you end up in Why Choose Polyamorousville?
Okay, well, A, it gave me a good chance to write about Judgment of Love,
Yeah, that's true. Right, right,
right? It
right.
did.
The
I had been
alternative
reading a lot of
lifestyle.
Tate James. Tate James, I absolutely love Tate James.
Yeah.
You know, I
Hmm.
read some Steve Stunick, Caroline Peckham.
They're
I had
very
read
good. The
obviously Laurel
sisters.
K. Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I just also like it because there's so many firsts.
Hmm.
There's like so many firsts, and the firsts are so fun to read, and they're so fun to
And you
write.
get
You've
one
got
with
like
each guy. Yeah. Or
you
each
got
girl.
one with each guy,
Yeah.
and then the guys too, and like so.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes, honestly, I feel like sometimes a girl sees more than one. She's complicated enough; she needs more than one.
Yeah, yeah. I love I like the idea that each person kind of comes in and is helps and is sort of the answer to one portion of that person's personality or their needs. And I've
Yeah.
always really enjoyed that aspect of it is
Mm.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I have a lot of trouble even reading MF anymore. It's just I'm constantly waiting for another person to show up and starting
I
to feel
can do
bored.
MF it if it is high emotion. Britt Benson,
Mhm.
love of my next life. Like I can do that. Rena Kent, holy crap. MM, God of Fury, Jesus Crow, dude.
I've
I
I've
could,
I've read through those. Yes, indeed.
yeah, like that
God
is
of
good. And
Malice.
then,
Yep.
you know, The Hookup by Kristen, I forget her last name, but it's
Mhm.
the book
Is it the
boyfriend in that is,
Cavallari?
yeah, yeah, like that.
Cavallari. Yep. Mhm.
Drew Baylor, like, geez,
Yeah.
crow, best book boyfriend ever.
All right. So you write pretty high spice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it happens.
do you think that's why your books end up being kind of long because you're like not willing to give up on all of the dialogue and characters? You want to have a lot of spice. Um, when you're planning it out, are you like, I'm going to make sure I have 8 scenes, like one that's like separate with each one and then one, or is it just, it's
I
however it happens?
So I don't plan,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
really don't at all. It just comes through.
Hmm.
I think that this I wanted to write the sex scenes because I've literally read books where they
Hmm.
wake up the next morning and I go, "What the f happened?" I'm like, "Did they
Day to
even
wake
have
up is
sex?
not
I
good.
don't even
Yeah.
know if they had sex." I'm like, "Do they even know if they had
And
sex?"
don't you feel shortchanged? You're like, are you
So
serious?
shortchanged, especially if you've built me up for like 300 pages, and then this is it. And I think that in the books, a lot of the sex is A, has to do with the mating bonds too,
Hmm.
right? And them connecting. And B, I think it's the growth of the relationship also shows through those sex scenes, their exploration of sex with each other, the boys growing and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure. Hmm.
yeah, so, and I like to get turned on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a spicy book and or a spicy series.
Yeah,
Um, I know that I've talked to other writers who are a little more formulaic, and I don't mean that in like a nasty way. I mean like they have a formula that works for them and they write great
yeah.
books. I have a few friends that are like that, and they will literally be like, well, I need to have 5 scenes, so I'm going to make sure that since there are 4 guys in this group, they're each one gets one of their own, and then there'll be the group one at the end, and that's what people expect. Um, and I don't know. I'm not like that.
I
They just
can't,
happen when they're going to happen.
yeah, I find that when I start to
Mhm.
create plans, they become boundaries and then they become something that like
Yeah.
weighs me down.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. I wanted to write spice because I like spice. I like reading spice.
Hmm.
And
Right.
I also wanted it to have emotions that sometimes aren't in spice.
Very understandable.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Would you it, Are Mickey and Jimmy based on anyone?
Uh, not really.
Are they a conflagration of several people, or is it just like
Several
an aspirational?
people, aspirations,
Yeah.
people that I mean, my dad smells
Hmm.
like Jimmy, I mean, Mickey kind of, but he's definitely not Mickey, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
Um, I don't, I would say no. I'd say that there are people in the books that are based off of people, but they are side characters mostly.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
think Mickey is who Billy needed. Like, you know what I mean?
And
And even though
Jimmy,
you feel like you're a lot like Billy, you haven't had her
mhm,
experiences. Yeah. But I think
yeah,
that's what she needed to have that kind of person.
yeah,
Yeah. I love
yeah.
that. I'm a big fan of not just found family, which is, in my opinion, maybe a little easier to write because you're constantly falling in love with new people. It's not that hard to do. But to write those really solid, like family, brothers, even if they're not blood family, but those solid people that have been in the person's life for a long time.
Well, sometimes
I
it's
love
easier
that.
when they're not blood because then it's the choice. It's the
Yeah.
choice
Hmm.
and that they've been there for you. And, it made it easier for Billy, I think, to trust them because they knew her before. They knew
Hmm.
her when she was demon, you
Yeah.
know? And so, like,
Hmm.
she needed that bad. Like, the state that she was in at that 12-year-old, the 6 years that she spent in foster care and then with Enzo and then on the streets, like,
Yeah.
she's tough, but you could tell that she needed that. And
Hmm.
yeah, but they are not particularly. I mean, I guess Mickey's a little bit based on my grandfather, a little bit,
Yeah. Hmm.
but he wasn't nearly as funny. I don't know.
Yeah. Have you spent a lot of time in South Boston?
Not a ton. I had a friend that lived there and stuff,
Hmm.
but I mean, I am from Massachusetts, so and my parents are from Waltham, and
Yeah, we talked about that, my grandma.
yeah, and so I've lived
Hmm.
here my whole life, so I know the
Yeah.
area well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Before my grandmother passed, she was at the Lowell Mills, the big retirement thing they have built out of the old mill there.
yeah.
She was one of the, yeah, that's where we had her for a long time. So, yeah, I'm really familiar with Waltham. And I
Mhm.
also spent my summers on the Cape. Um,
I did
Most of the
too. I
people
spent
from
some.
Rhode Island more than Boston, but
Yeah, I
down the
spent my
Cape.
summers. Well, actually, I spent most of my summers at Hampton Beach in New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've been to Hampton Beach. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, my family, eh, my cousin's other side of their family had was it Crystal Lake in New Hampshire? I'm trying to remember what the name of the lake was now, but I don't remember. But they
Mm.
had a house there, and they would take me with them when they went to visit the other side of their family, just so I could go to the lake with them.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's been fun reading about New England, honestly, because I don't get to read a lot about, that area of the country.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
enjoying that. All right. So we are coming up on 5:45. Um, and I kind of, I mean, I'm mostly out. I mean, the rest of these just don't feel, I think we've covered them as probably, we've managed to cover a lot of these questions without me having to ask you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So thank you for
No
joining me
problem.
and also for being so flexible as Facebook refused to play ball today.
Dude, it is what it is, We work with what you got.
I know, I know. Um, I may honestly end up doing Zoom next time because this has been fine and people can listen in if they want to. And
And then you can
um,
post the copy to the group
yeah,
so people can
exactly.
watch it when they
Mhm.
want,
We
you
don't get
know?
the constant comments, which I guess is the thing about Facebook Live, which would be
Right.
nice. But yeah, but this at least this works. Every single time I've done like 8 of these now, and every single time there's some sort of new issue with bringing people into the live, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
when
a
I used to do the lives, I used to do it through Zoom and then into the live.
yeah. So you can I've read that you can do that. You can sort of right, use a program that's kind of an API that sits between the two platforms. So maybe I could try that. I hadn't really thought about that. I thought I was going to have to get out like, oh, the Mac video editing software. I can't remember what it's called right now, OCS or something, which I don't have anymore. So but if I could use Zoom, that would totally work. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Missy. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for chatting with me.
No
Um,
problem. It was
I
great
really
to
love your
meet
books.
you. Oh, thank you so
Yeah, I'm
much.
a big fan. I really am. I tell everyone to read them. Yeah, I do. So I really, really appreciate it. And definitely don't be a stranger. And when you're ready to get your next one promoting, please come and drop in and visit with
Oh yeah,
us.
I suck at the promoting thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The promotion is half the fun, right? No.
I'm like,
No.
I'm just gonna hire people to do that shit. Like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You asked me about like being on my arc, and I'm like, what? No, I don't do that.
I don't do that stuff. Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds like organization of stuff. I'm all set.
Yeah, if I could just stay home and do nothing but kind of write and throw it into a hole and let someone else deal with everything else, I think some days I would really, really enjoy that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still have my clients, I still have my business and stuff too. So like it's not like
Yeah.
that. But then like when it comes to I just have realized like I'm gonna put energy into what I want to, and then
Yeah.
I'll just pay other people to do stuff for
I think
me.
that's
Like I
I think
don't
it's a
put it on
great.
Amazon,
Yeah.
I will say for anybody, it's 5 books.
Yeah.
I
So
know it looks like stuff is coming up or whatever, and it would look like 3, but it is 5, and I'm not going above 5 because
okay.
I am not thinking of another freaking title.
Okay. That sounds totally fair. Have titles been like a special like sticking point for you?
It's just like, what am I gonna do after like the Duchess? Like seriously, and then like another cover? No. So if
Yeah.
book has to be 1,000 pages, it has to be 1,000 pages.
That's a good attitude. That's kind of where I'm getting to with Meet Your Maker. I'm like, somebody was like, "How many, where are you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm at 85,000 words." It's like, they're like, "Well, that's great. You're almost done." I'm like,
No.
"No, I have to have her turn into a vampire now. I haven't done that yet somehow."
Yeah, and you're like, and that's at least 20,000 words alone.
My
Like,
God, yeah. I mean, I was like,
yeah.
not only that, but then she also has to like rebond with everyone that got broken in her death, and then also take Roxana out. And there's all, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and then you're
lot.
like, my God, why did I do this to myself? This is horrible.
Well, I really, I overcomplicate. That's my thing. That's what my alphas tell me. That's what my best friends tell me. I come up with a great idea, and then as I'm writing, I go, but wait, what if not only was this happening, but this other thing that's going to take another 25,000 pages was also happening. Um, but that's
Crazy.
just, that's how I roll.
So I have a question for you, just as like author to author.
Okay.
Like when you're writing, are
Mhm.
your emotions getting triggered too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been crying through this whole book that I've been
Yeah.
writing,
Because
especially.
like when I did like after the 48,
Hmm.
I had to have her like lose her husband,
Hmm.
and which is based off of my husband and I. Like it is like legit. There are parts in that are us.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting there and I'm just crying, writing the eulogy, and then like 3 hours after that, I had to like lie down with my dog, hug her, and then just cry. And then in book three, oh
Hmm.
my God, when she was at Castle Island and the wolves were chasing her, I was like, just get this done. I just don't want to be here anymore. Like I was just like trying to get it done as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I
No,
don't know how like Stephen King or like some of these like
I don't know. I mean,
I
because
would be so
no,
stressed out.
it's not everybody though. That's the thing. And nobody's listening right now, so I'll just
Yeah.
say it. Uh, every writer does not connect that way. The people who are putting out two or three, a book every 2 or 3 months and have 30 of them, they're not connecting on that level. They don't cry with every, I think you have to get deeply connected to your characters. And I've asked, some people are like, yes, absolutely, it tears me up. And other people are like, no. So,
I because I
yeah,
don't know how I could write it otherwise, since I feel like I have to be
I don't think
them.
you need to. I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of cathartic.
I
It,
don't know because for 3 days I wrote that wolf attack scene, and I was literally like, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. It's like,
yeah, I've definitely gone to bed with the big puffy red eyes and the,
yeah.
yeah, I know when I was writing Javier being tortured, oh, that
Oh,
was so hard. And just, yeah, I almost wanted to speed through it, but I knew that it was important that we hit that dark night of the soul moment, so that everything could turn out all right.
yeah,
But holy moly, I was in a bad
yeah.
place by the end of it. And I know this is the last book I'm writing, so I keep crying over the stupidest things. It's really like yeah, I need therapy or something. I just, it's not good. It's not good, Liz.
Well, what are
Um,
you doing after this series? Do you have other stuff going?
yeah, yeah, I got other stuff going. But this is like kind of my heart story right now. I'm sure I'll fall in love with other ones, but
You
this is the
will,
one
because
I
like
thought
I have,
about
because
for,
like Billy was like I'm
yeah.
so entrenched in Billy. Like she like this story, like
Mhm.
all the
Yeah.
characters mean a ton to me. But then like after the 48,
Hmm.
I'm like so into them. And then like Hella, Mad, and Razor, and Dog, and Bull from
Yeah.
my other series. I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
so
that's
you will.
great. I have not been able to really start. That's not really true. I'm also writing a Dragon Shifting Academy series that I'm writing a
Uh-huh.
novella, and I write 2 episodes, 2 or 3 a week, and put them up. So I'm constantly working in another universe.
Yeah.
Um, but I am not as attached to that person as I
To
am
Sunday.
to Sunday and the Grand Gang yet. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll get there, but right now I am not. I'm also going to be writing a rowing sports book, a book about, a crew team.
Routine.
And I have some of that fleshed out. I think I may end up more attached to her. Yeah. She she's kind of, yeah, she's got bits of me in her. I like her. Um,
Good.
but we haven't decided. Yeah, let me ask you, what do you think? To if you have a book about,
True.
rowers in college, there is a choice to make it an Omega verse or to make it just a contemporary sport, right? I could go either way. I've thought of ways to make them both work. The thing about the Omega verse is that if she's the coxswain for like a four, there's her automatic pack, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of this beautiful thing where you have these giant men and this tiny little girl, which kind of screams alphas and omegas.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also the one who's kind of in charge, you know? So that kind of really appeals to me, but I also feel like there's a broader appeal for non-Omega sports books.
I would say write to read it, not write to appeal to others.
Okay, I like that, but I also like to make money.
I know, but I can see the crunching of your nose, like, but I think honestly, if you write to read,
Yeah,
you're writing for the reader.
yeah, yeah,
You're
for
not
me,
writing
but
for the. And we sometimes I think that we think that we know what people want, but we are the people.
right.
And if we want to read it, other people will want to read it. And
Yeah,
and
it'll
you'll have the
probably.
going into it because when you want to read it, that energy goes into it. If you're
Mhm.
writing it just to make the money, right?
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
it's a different kind of energy
I
and it
mean,
becomes more of a
it could
chore.
work. It could work as a contemporary. I wouldn't have all of that extra built-in cool like stuff, you know?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you can still have the dynamics.
yeah,
And you've got to remember too that because like I have a client whose son rowed for Yale and her
uh-huh.
and her grandfather was actually an Olympic rower. So I know a lot about rowing.
Yeah, I do
But
too.
you're going to have
Hmm.
dynamics within the boats themselves.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
remember, it's not always the same four. Sometimes they switch them up.
Right. I was already making, so my kids are 24 and 27 now, and they were both rowers. So
Mm.
I've been a rowing mom for like 10 years, of the constant regattas and the constant this
Oh
and the
my
constant
God,
that.
yes.
Yeah. And my son is like 6'3". He was in the varsity one. And then my daughter is this little thing, and she rowed lightweight and also rowed it, and I was also coxswain. And she was the captain of the team by the end. And
Yeah.
my kids talk to me constantly, and I did a lot of driving. So I've been hearing that around my head, the problems in the boat, how they're,
Yeah.
problems with another coxswain. I have her recordings from all of her races because she kept those and just in case. So I have like in the boat, this is what it sounds like. This is what a
Yeah.
power 10 is called at. This is where, I feel like technically when I write it, it's going to be very on the nose.
Yes.
It's so then it becomes a question of like, how do I now make it into like a believable romance with a lot of growth, unexpected things, how do I get it to like kind of tickle people's brain matter in a pleasant way, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I would ask, how would it tickle your brain matter? What would you want it? How would you want it to be tickled? Like, you
Yeah.
know,
I'm kind of a weirdo, so it's not always, yeah,
but
it's
we all
work for
are,
me.
dude. You and I are both like reverse ham right now, like paranormal, and like people are reading our books. So you are not
Yeah,
alone in it.
it's shocking. I still expect someone to tell me that it's a joke. Yeah.
Well, somebody probably did tell me it was a joke, and I was like, "Well, you read the wrong book. You didn't read the book you wanted to read." I'm like, what are you
Yeah,
gonna do about it?
I'm still totally shocked when I run into people like my favorite reverse harem of any time of all time is the House of Rishes, and I'm just like, okay, I need to like suggest some other books for you. That's ridiculous. People are
Yeah, I'm like, you
silly.
just so you've only read one. Is that
Yeah,
what I'm
there we
getting?
go.
You
Well,
only
you
read
really
one.
should read some more.
Yeah.
All
But yeah,
right.
I would just ask, like, and
Mhm.
I think with rowing too, there's a lot of dynamics.
Oh, there is. Yeah. It's a beautiful kind of thing. If I don't get too into the weeds on the stuff, but it is there's just nothing else I can think of
And
where
it would be such a good like
you
dove
have the two
con.
sexes mixed together in a natural way. They're
Well,
teammates,
yeah,
you know?
and it
They're
would be
both
also
athletes. They're all athletes. Yeah,
right,
it's great.
but it would also be kind of like cool, like in the boat, she's in charge,
Yeah.
but in the
And that's but
bedroom,
you have to earn it too. Like the
but
coach
in
can
the bedroom,
say
she's
you're
not in
the
charge.
coxswain and
Right.
everyone is supposed to listen. But if she's not making good decisions, if she's not steering well, if she's not calling things correctly, they lose confidence really fast and then they're assholes.
Yeah.
My daughter went through that her first year when she didn't know what she was doing. So
Yeah. But also like, if
yeah.
they have to listen to her in the boat, maybe she has to listen to them in the bedroom.
Yeah, right. So you can mess up you can mix up the control stuff.
The
Yeah.
controls, like,
I was thinking about having her be a gymnast who blew out her knee. So she's already has that athletic mindset. But she's always been on her own. I mean, gymnasts are on teams, but they don't do
yeah, but
things
they
together.
compete by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So she
Yeah.
has to learn how to work with a crew. This allows her to continue to do athletics, but doesn't stress out her knee. And I was just thinking that it might be interesting to have that kind of someone who is because gymnasts are a whole bag of crazy. I mean, I had a best friend who was a gymnast and she was amazing. I mean, the things that
Yeah.
they can do, the pain that they go through, crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
The
but they
other thing
don't
that would
cope very well with things with certain stuff. So I was kind of looking forward to like throwing her into a
yeah,
situation where she doesn't know everything automatically. She's not already really good at everything. What would that do to her? Yeah.
it could also be like, I mean, a music background would be really helpful too.
Oh, because then she'd have rhythm.
Rhythm,
Idea.
tempo,
Yeah.
tone, you know,
Yep. That's not
you
a bad
know.
idea at all.
So that's like another way to look at it too. But with
Mhm.
the gymnastics, she has choreography and stuff too. So she knows,
Right.
and she knows kinetically and stuff, and she knows the
Mhm.
importance of a flick of a wrist, a bend of a wrist here versus here,
Yeah,
like she could
absolutely. That's
pick
what I was
up
thinking. I
things.
was thinking, and also if one of them like dislocated a knee, like she wouldn't be thrown by that because that's
Yeah.
something you see in practice. So she'd be immediately in there, like icing and, figuring it out. Yeah, I had some ideas for that. All
Yeah.
right. Okay, I
Yeah.
have to go make dinner because people depend on me, unfortunately. I hope the bear doesn't get your chickens.
Oh, dude, I can't believe I've been banging pots. This is ridiculous. All
All
right,
right.
I will talk to you later.
All right. It was really nice meeting you, Liz.
Nice meeting you
Bye.
too. Bye.